Cuts and bloody smudges on his face as well as past memories. That's what worries him at the moment, namely his beloved girlfriend. The guy's name is Li Jian. The whole of humanity is against him, tanks, planes and a large army, but not everyone has to survive. He mentally asks for forgiveness from his girlfriend, and at that moment the troops begin their attack. At the same time, the guy uses an unknown force and his eyes are filled with light, and a blue aura appears around his body. He takes a step and the ground around him cracks at the seams. A huge moat is formed, many people have died, but this is just the beginning. The world is an amazing and beautiful place, but how can you describe a creature like him? First he's a fish swimming in the river. Another day he is destined to be a bird soaring in the sky, and tomorrow he is a small and fragile ant, among the same and small creatures. The youngster has lived hundreds of different lives, who he just wasn't. From the eruption of volcanoes, to the flowering of buds, he saw everything and died hundreds of times. In the body of different beings, but remembering all previous lives. Being an elephant, he is suddenly killed, he was again caught by hunters. The only beings to whom the creature feels enmity are people. Dying from stronger creatures suited him, because this is the law of nature, but people killed for fun and each time they became stronger. He had been killed for centuries, although death meant nothing to him, but still he was filled with hatred for these greedy creatures. Death overtakes him again, and the only thing that bothers him on his deathbed is who he will become in the next life. So he spent millions of years of his life, his gift was a curse. He often wondered why he was given such power. And when will it all end? He doesn't want to live anymore. However, he is destined to be born again. During the birth, every time he is overtaken by unbearable pain, it feels like all the bones are breaking. But this time he is in much more pain than usual. He is sure that he was born a mammal, because the stronger the pain, the higher his being in the food chain. He is terribly interested in who he is going to become this time, and how much time has passed since his last death. The world is constantly changing. After leaving the shell warming him, he felt a cool breeze and opened his eyes, although everything was blurry, but he immediately understood. The creature that causes him hatred, he was born a man. Li Jiang. That's what he was called. The creature had a name for the first time in many centuries. People's lives look quite complicated, interethnic and interracial conflicts constantly arise. They try to give a logical explanation for this, but there is none. The guy is already 6 years old and he and his mother are sitting at a doctor's appointment. All the tests of the boy are normal, but why is he not talking at his age yet? The man assumes that perhaps this is some kind of psychological problem? But a woman is not satisfied with such an answer. Why the hell does he think her child is crazy? His mother's name is Yun Shil. She is a stupid woman. She was destined to lose her family in the war, and soon her husband was also killed. The only thing left of him is the poor child. The world was too cruel to this fragile girl, but she continued to fight for the sake of her child. He became everything to her. She continued to talk to her child despite the fact that he did not understand her. However, he felt warmth from his mother. Jiang didn't hate her. There are a lot more differences in this life than in the past. A man running through the night scares off a frog and tries to escape from the chase, but soon stumbles and falls to the ground. He asks for forgiveness, but they are clearly not going to spare the man. They want to beat him because of political differences. But something distracts them. A strange kid appears on a pillar in the moonlight. Adults notice a nocturnal figure and, not understanding how the child got there, ask him to come down. At the same time, Li Jiang, without hesitation, jumps from the pole like a frog and lands on his feet, while remaining in perfect order. The surrounding people are very surprised by this phenomenon, but that's not all. The boy is overwhelmed by a mysterious power, and he uses the power of a cheetah. The bandits are excited by this turn of events, but the blue-eyed kid remains indifferent and uses the power of the Argentinosaurus to strike. With this attack, he paves the skull of an adult. This time, Jiang was born with an exceptional ability. He can use all the skills of the creatures he was. The reason is not known, but he clearly feels that this is his last life and now he can die. A group of robbers was morally defeated. One even went under himself. But still the gang leader decides to hit the child and he succeeds and the kid falls to the ground. Without abilities, a guy is able to feel pain, but when they are activated, Li Jiang allows himself to be hit again, and then the adult breaks his arm, after which the young man uses the powers of a chimpanzee and begins to strangle the villain. The Seine turns blue before his eyes and gradually loses consciousness. The boy realizes that with these powers he can be anyone. But suddenly a shot is fired and the boy is hit by a bullet. He was too careless and now, being wounded, falls unconscious. The shooter is scared to hell because he shot a child, after which he disappears from the crime scene. Sunrise. The guy shows small signs of life and soon rises. He did not expect to be injured by this strange object, and yet, because of the instinct of self-preservation, the abilities of the sea cucumber were used, which is why he survived. This news does not please him, but it was fun. After so many years of life, he did not expect that he could be surprised by something. It is amazing that there is so much power in this small and fragile body. Suddenly he hears something, but what? Over and over, his mother tried to find her child. With such a cry, she woke up all the neighbors and they were not happy about it. However, Li Jiaying is in no hurry to return. His gaze is attracted by a sitting sparrow on a garden scarecrow, and with a sharp jerk he eats it without any problems. Thus, he realized that although he is not an adult, he can already fully hunt. There is no reason to stay with his mother. Maternal love touched his heart for a second, and mentally saying goodbye to his mother, he left the field. After 4 days of travel, the creature in the form of a young child was terribly dragged and soon he fell to the ground. His breathing was heavy. The fact is that he was struck by fever and hunger. He believed that he was an omnivore, but apparently the food was not the best. For all the millions of lives, Li Jiaying is experiencing this feeling for the first time, but he has accepted his fate and does not regret anything. But then his emaciated mother appears, covered in dirt. She tirelessly searched for her child, her last reason for life. When she found her son, she rushed into his arms with tears in her eyes. Li Jiaying realized that he only wants to eat what this stupid woman will cook, and besides, he is tormented by the question, how long will she cry? He is insanely hungry and decides to try to calm her down in a human language he does not understand. He utters the same words that his mother constantly uttered with a smile on her face, namely, I love you. She was surprised by these words, but contrary to the expectations of Li Jiaying, she began to cry even louder. The sunset that evening was especially beautiful. We are transferred to the police station, where the frightened bandit repents of the crime committed. According to him, they were beaten by a child and he shot him, but there was no body at the crime scene. There was only the body of Detective N. But he denies the fact of the detective's murder and in a panic turns to his injured comrade to justify him. However, he betrays him. The guy shouts that he did not kill the detective, but only a fucking monster, but no one listens to his nonsense. After that day, Yunshil did not let go of her child for a second, so that he would not get lost again. Her smile was warm and she did not cause him hatred, but the feeling of anxiety did not leave him. Time passed, a snow-white blizzard covered the whole neighborhood and although it was cold outside, it was hot inside, because carefree children hit Jiaying, and his mother would not leave it just like that. They tried to explain to her that fights are common at this age, but all attempts were in vain. Yunshil was kind only to him. Hearing someone slander her child, he did not hesitate to defend his honor, and also when they tried to take away the last kind of earnings from her, she lay down on the ground and announced that she would not move an inch. She always struggled with this cruel world. Time flew by imperceptibly and soon, Jiaying got used to his new body and one summer day he was again visited by the idea of leaving the parental wing. He is distracted by his mother and calls for food. Her hand was warm but stiff. At the same time, the boy asks, why fight this world? But the mother, without giving an exact answer, promises to protect him. As a result, what he was most afraid of happened. Jiaying became attached to her and does not want to go anywhere. The flower that fell from the head of Yunshil was picked up by a stranger who was looking for the so-called monster. In this world, the strongest survives, the weak become food for the strong. This unspoken law concerns all beings in this world and everyone knows it from birth, but not all deaths are fair. Something life helps to overcome the heat, the second helps to overcome the cold. Someone serves science. Sometimes someone's death becomes an ornament, sometimes entertainment. The creature considers it fundamentally wrong, and that's why he. Events are transferred to the riverbank. 12 years have passed after the birth of a youngster. Having collected a sufficient number of muscles, the kid goes home. During this time he finally got used to the human environment. In recent years, his hometown has changed a lot, the roads have become smoother, and the houses are taller. And also a factory was built near the river, which emitted black clouds of smoke, and also dumped waste into clean lands. And his dear mother fell ill and was lying at home with a fever. He remembers that ill-fated day. Food did not fit into his mouth, and there was also food that he instinctively hated. His mother tried to force him, but received a hard refusal, and in the end she had to eat alone, and now he regrets that he did not dissuade her. But now it's too late to think about it. He puts a cool compress on her head and she smiles at him in response, after which, after saying goodbye, he said that he was going to school, but this is not the case. The area continued to prosper, and meanwhile, Zhang sat down to sell apples and thought about this rotten world where one person's comfort leads to another's suffering, and why does his mother suffer because of all this? His thoughts are interrupted by a previously familiar person. He brazenly takes an apple and wonders why a monster should pretend to be a man. But the boy is silent in response to these provocations. He is handcuffed, but he did not move an eye. He is suspected of espionage, and if he turns out to be spies, his mother will not be well, and people have already been sent to his mother. The man continues to provoke and says that the woman will not survive the detention, as it will be cruel. Then Zhang can't stand it. The man notices a change in the behavior of the youngster, and warns his partners to get up a little further. And then the boy began to be engulfed by a blue glow, and after the whole earth under his feet was destroyed, people panicked, but one remained calm, and he also knew the reason for this phenomenon. In a moment, the kid was at a distance of several meters. Many were surprised by the kid's speed, but that man intervened in the conversation of his subordinates, and repeated, "This is a monster." But he underestimated him, because Zhang can become anyone. And so, on that day, Zhang became a natural disaster. Humanity, the reason why man is considered the center of the world, despite his weakness, is language. Their way of communication allowed humanity to create communities and civilizations much faster than other animals. But now the creature also understands their language and now will never forget. But this is a blessing or a curse?